Hey there, everyone. Today I am looking at Limbus Company. So this is again an interesting game. I kind of just talked about Library and Lobotomy Corp. Um, yeah, no, this is where things get really weird. Where again, all the people who told me, or the few people who told me that Limbus is not a gacha, just end your life because like I've never had someone bold face lie to me so hard in my life. This is a gacha. Yes, it has the same story developers and whatever, but it is a gacha, and it's almost like they always wanted to make a gacha style game, with the way that Lob Corp is structured, the way that Library is structured, definitely very gacha friendly with the whole book burning thing. And now here we finally have the actual gacha where they're charging for I think Enkelin and roses and rolls and stuff. And it's pretty I would have to say though, for a gacha, if I just didn't know this was by LobCorp, it is a really interesting, cool setup that I really appreciate. And as someone who reads a lot, I really appreciate the references to certain characters and authors. And so the basic setup is that beside there's another corporation or another company in this world of the eyes and the wings, where they're kind of living again in the ruins of the loss of the energy that Lob Corp provided them. And so, Limbus Company, you are the manager, and for some reason, you are a giant flaming clockhead man, and you are called for some reason Dante. And your main kind of component, it's really interesting. It's a mixture of, I mean, a whole bunch of literary characters, but it's mostly Dante and Faust, so Algeri and Goethe. And so it's, I don't know, it's just really a really interesting mix of these literary characters who are your kind of employees at the company. And so you're not really getting energy, but you're kind of discovering. And I mean, well, part of it is going through the back streets, fighting with thugs. So it is a proper story based thing. It's not like a weird abstraction where you're dealing with abnormalities or like turning people into books, but you're fighting people, other characters in the universe. And then you're also going into the ruins of LobCorp and fighting abnormalities and the remnants of those abnormalities, which I guess are still coming from the well or something. And they are leaving behind these golden boughs. And so you need to basically find the golden boughs and basically reclaim the energy. So again, they're just kind of retracing a lot of ground from Lobotomy Corp and just kind of like harping on that story and then just turning it into more gacha style mechanics, really. Um, and yeah, it feels very weird playing this on PC because, Lobotomy Corp and all those other and Project Moon games have been very PC focused. But I can feel that, oh god, I can really play this on my phone. This is very much a phone style game. The main gameplay difference here is that when you fight, you have these two rows of attacks, and you put your finger, or your cursor rather, over the path that you want it to take. And so the basic mechanic here is that the more of the similar colored attacks you chain together, and it's literally a chain that you're drawing, the more damage and the more effects it'll have. And so you have things like clashes now, where they'll do certain things. They'll break the enemy's defense and stagger them, like it was in Library. And then when you reach the chain on the other end, it'll execute that. And you have about 4 to 5 guys on the board at one time. It is, I would argue, a little bit more mindless in the sense that you're just chaining attacks together and hoping that it works. And then as soon as you run into a brick wall, like any gacha, you have to either pay up or change out, power up a character or power up a weapon or an outfit or do something, or gamble for some kind of power up essentially. Which again, it just it feels super scummy. Like it has the whole buy roses, and you need like 13. Is it 800 or 1300 roses to do like a 10 pull? And so yeah, it's like you can buy roses. You can buy like a 10 pack of roses, or buy 10,000 roses, upwards of like $100, and the typical gacha bundles that you see. So it's a full on gacha. So. And again, the story is like, okay, we're this ragtag group of employees that for some reason are all named after the main characters in famous literary works. And the first guy I met was Gregor. I'm like, okay, yeah, like Gregor Samsa from the Metamorphosis, as if he'd be in here. Turns out it's actually him because he talks about a bunch of bug things. Like, oh my god, it's really him. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that they import a lot of characters. So who do we have here? We have so you are Dante, and there's also another character, Vigilius, who is Virgil, and he's kind of like the one of the overseers and this mysterious guy who's of course guiding you, and he has these red eyes, and so he's more sort of like a anti-protagonist or like a rival or like one of those edgy guys. Um, Aside from that, the characters you actually command are Ishmael from Moby Dick. Yeah, Gregor Samsa from Metamorphosis. This one guy called Sinclair from a book I never heard about called DDM, like a Story of Boyhood, which is a German book written in 1919. So similar to, I guess, Kafka. Oh, you have Don Quixote and Rhodia. Is it Don Quixote from Don Quixote? Rhodia from Crime and Punishment. Oh gosh, who else? That's like something obvious. You have a bunch of like Asian characters and from Asian literature, which I'm not very familiar with. And then I think you also have I forgot some kind of characters from something. I just can't remember. But yeah, you have a whole slew of characters. And what's also very interesting is that some of the characters are completely sex swapped. So Rhodia and Don Quixote are both girls. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. That's kind of hilarious. Faust is also a girl, and it kind of it's kind of a weird, delicate balance because like I don't mind having literary references or literary characters in the games or adapted to game stages. But if you're gonna transform them, then you should almost try to 100% or 90% transform them. I leave 10% as a reference. Like, when you play Persona 5, you realize that, oh yeah, there's LeBlanc and Arsène, and these are references to Arsène Lupin by Maurice LeBlanc. But Joker himself is literally not some French guy. He's not waving around a baguette or, dressing up in a early 1900s, thief costume. He has his own style and just a few references here and there. But yeah, Don Quixote, she has like a spear or a jousting spear, those things, and a bunch of other stuff. And she has, I mean, she has the right attitude. She has the super optimistic belief attitude, which I really enjoy. I think that's kind of on point. I just feel it's a little bit maybe, I don't want to say shallow or underdeveloped, but I would have liked to see more transformation with that character. Or with those characters, I guess, for me to really care. Something really smart that they do that I really enjoy is that the way they do the alt costumes. So the way they do this is similar to like I think Sinnoh Alice. In that game, you would have the same character like Cinderella or whatever, but she'd have a gunbreaker outsuit, or she'd have a magic user outfit, or she'd have like a close quarters, like a ninja outfit or whatever. And so they do that here where they give them different kinds of, they give them the different outfits from the different books. So what if Ishmael was in Don Quixote? What if Rhodia Raskolnikov was in Faust or something? And so they have like, different things where they have knight armor for all the characters if they were in Don Quixote. So I really enjoy that kind of mixing and matching and whatever. I don't know. I just felt the characters felt a little bit flat to me, a little bit. Kind of like, oh, cool, this is a reference to a thing, but is that character more than that? It's like, yes, it's like there's like 40% transformation, 50% transformation. I mean, they completely changed their sex, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, I can give them that, but it didn't feel like, okay, can I appreciate this character on their own without knowing the references? It's like, yeah, somewhat, a little bit. So yeah, I guess on that point, if you didn't have any knowledge of the references or whatever, would it make a huge impact? It's like, not really. It's like, but so by themselves, they're not super amazing characters. Um, I should mention the other really interesting thing that I bring up is because you are Dante and the other kind of NPC is Faust. You don't really, I guess you don't really get too much influence from those two works, or those two works are the main influences for this game itself. So, for example, the whole getup is that you're all working for Limbus Company. You have been contracted to be their manager and manage your employees, which are literary figures. And you're all on a bus that's going through the ruins of Seoul or wherever you are in this fictional city, dystopian city, and the bus is called Mephistopheles, and the driver is Sharon, the boat driver from the Divine Comedy. So they're mixing a lot of the actual lore of the universe in between Dante, or between Alighieri and Goethe, which is again really interesting because those are heavily Christian, not even Christian, but like specifically spiritual works. That's really interesting, and those are actually one of my two favorite pieces of literature, because they deal with good and evil on like the most extreme and abstract examples where they have physical manifestations in locations. The other cool thing about the lore is that when you do actually roll, so in library you were burning books. In this game, you are, I guess, sacrificing roses or paying roses. And when you actually get the different costumes or different altercations or alterations of the characters, they come from the engine of Mephistopheles itself. So it comes from the bus or truck engine itself that you're driving, where these new variations come from. And this engine is this giant pulsating chain orb, which is pretty cool, honestly. I really like that imagery and whatnot. I just don't really get why that is. I mean, obviously this chick Faust made a contract with the bus or something. I didn't get very far in this game. I did like the first chapter, the first canto. Oh, that's the other thing that I appreciate too. Each level is called a canto, and yeah, it just reflects the Divine Comedy quite a lot. So I really appreciate a lot of what this game is trying to do, but honestly, the way it does it, I just don't vibe with it. Like, again, I appreciate it, I like it. This is maybe something I would make. It's like, oh, let's do the Super Smash Bros of literary characters, right? I appreciate that, I like that, but I just don't enjoy the premise. You're driving around fighting guys, looking at, harping on the old, story of Lobotomy Corporation. And there's nothing really new here. And it is a gacha. And it's like, when I go into a gacha, you neither had to have really good presentation or a really good story. And this game kind of does mid on both points. It really has neither. It's kind of like, these characters are fine. I've never been super. I honestly, I do like the characters from Lobotomy Corp. When I think about Odd and Malkuth specifically, Yesod a little bit too. Bina was an amazing character who was almost like a villain, but also helping you. She was kind of like Kreia from Knights of the Old Republic. Very mysterious, very cool, and her dialogue was always super, super interesting. I thought Chokma, the old man scientist, was going to be the more interesting character, but Bina was, arguably almost the main character, if there could be argued to be a main character besides the main character. She was just super, super interesting. And in this game, I don't feel that. It's just not there. It's just, I'm just not getting it. It's just like very whatever, very yeah, okay, that character's kind of interesting, or sort of okay. And I appreciate all the references, and I thought, the chick with the axe, that's not Raskolnikov, that's Rodia. I don't know what was this. It's like, oh yeah, no, it is Rodia Rodin Raskolnikov, Raskanovich, I forgot. So yeah, I don't know. I appreciate it, but I just don't care. I mean, that's the sad truth, is that, okay, cool, we went through a bunch of stories, you pay a bunch of, points to do them. There are a bunch of, thug stories similar to the beginning of Library, And then you finally get to like the ruins of Lobotomy Corp, you fight an anomaly and you get the energy, and it's like cool, whatever. And even the good way the game opens up, you're kind of like randomly in a forest and you have all these people just suddenly interacting, and it's very like off the cuff. It just kind of opens up like it's the middle of like a story, which is usually fine, but it feels like I'm missing a lot of context, and it's not an interesting, gripping environment. It's like, okay, cool, we put them all into this bus and they're all going around fighting stuff. I sadly don't care. On top of that, like, what would I do to change this so that I would care? Well, the first thing I would do is I would tease the fact that, well, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because in library, you were literally turning people into books and encoding their souls into those things. And so now these, literary characters are literally coming to life in front of us. And so I'm like, that's really cool. So what would I do to change it? I guess I would definitely tease the idea of other souls or other classic characters, literary characters being sealed behind certain books and doors, and you have to unlock them. And there has to be some element of mystery, I think. Lobotomy Corp was really good at creating this element of mystery where you are working for Angela as the manager in the beginning. And she seems to be a benevolent, entity, but is also holding back a lot of information from you. And so it's discovering what is the company I work for, what exactly am I going to do. Every time I encounter an entity, I wanted to know what is its behaviors, what is this cryptic message about its nature, how is it going to act, what is it, what kind of weird thing is it going to be. That's really interesting and cool. That's what I wanted to see. So I don't know, in this game I would love to see like how they do interpret certain literary characters, but here they just kind of give them all to you at the beginning. So I thought it'd be really interesting to be like, okay, we're in this part of the city or this part of the library, and we have to fight to unlock, Ishmael or like Raskolnikov. If there was like the first or second mission was unlocking or breaking out Raskolnikov out of a book and seeing the different variations of that character, that would keep me super engaged. I would be all over this game if that was the case. But I simply, it's kind of like they just revealed everything and I just don't care. I mean, there's some mystery as to why you are Dante and why you are a flaming clock that can only talk in ticking sounds. It is pretty interesting and engaging that way, but yeah, like that's the only part, and the rest of it is very like we're just here to beat up guys and roll for gacha. So from that perspective, I just don't care, and it's not very fun, and that's I don't know, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I'm not really super impressed, and I've heard some people say very mixed things about this game, and yeah, I don't care. I want to go back and play Lobotomy Corporation again and relive that story. That was super cryptic and interesting and cool. And yeah. Anyway, guys, I think that's all I really have to say about this game. Kind of a letdown, I guess. Still can't believe people told me that this is not a gacha. I would have liked to see more of this kind of stuff. I mean, it is interesting that like it's an original idea, but also not original. Like I think honestly, if you look at trying to transform a character from a literary work to a anime girl, let's just take that for argument. I would say Sinnoh Alice did a much better job because it did a whole like a redesign. Like the designs were interesting in Sinnoh Alice. Here they're all kind of wearing the same like company jackets, which makes sense, but it's just not interesting. Changing their characters, their personalities, making a warped or messed up version of them. I think there was the creator of Black Butler who had some like Disney gacha thing where you had all the Disney characters, but they were evil. That's like a really cool avenue to explore, like good guy, but like classic character, but what if they were evil? And so again, there's just a level of transformation that needs to happen for me to just be interested, and I'm just not interested. I played the whole first thing. I didn't even have a gameplay problem. It wasn't super difficult. I just thought I literally don't care about this game. And that's the thing, you have great sequels and you have bad sequels. And like, I don't put anything on a pedestal. I don't think that if you love a certain game in the series, that if you play the sequel or the next game and it just doesn't click for you, I don't think you're obliged to play it unless you're really desperate yourself personally to find the same thing. But that's all I have to say about it. Yeah. Uh, I don't know. Play Lobotomy Corp. I highly highly recommend it. For these ones, they just didn't click with me. That's pretty much all that there is to it. And again, I would love to see more of this kind of work, like transforming classic literary characters. Bungo Stray Dogs is another okay example. I mean, it's another example, but I think the idea has value and merit. And even in Sinoalice's case, as much as I enjoyed it, I really didn't feel it added an interesting story that was original enough to keep. But it could have. The story, the presentation, the design, they all felt good. Here it feels less good and more generic and just yeah. But they tried, and I have to at least give them kudos for that. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I got to say on this one. I will see you later.